Alright guys, so it is 3 in the morning. I have been notified about a new leak. I actually got a DM about this from Nibrock Rock on Discord, so I checked my Twitter, and sure enough, 2 other people had notified me about this. Professor Squeaky and The Realist Gamer, so thank you guys all for letting me know about this. Now, I talked about this a bit on Twitter already, but I just wanted to make a really quick recap because there's not a whole lot to talk about. But if you're not aware, there was a recent alleged leak about what I suppose is Mario Odyssey DLC of Isle Delfino. And initially this looked very convincing, but as usual, I want to look at everything under the microscope with a fine-tooth comb and whatever other figures of speech apply to this situation. And there were a few things that came up. Not a lot, but I think they are significant. The first thing that I think should be mentioned is that these buildings in the background, they are apparently ripped out of Mario and Sonic at the Olympics. Now, this is information that was brought to my attention by Nibrock from a conversation that he was having with Sean Hicks. We know that the Olympics games, the Mario and Sonic Olympic games, that series is developed by Sega, not Nintendo, and of course Mario Odyssey is developed by Nintendo. So Nintendo wouldn't have access to these assets necessarily. They could, of course, ask Sega to let them borrow or use the assets, but it seems like they would probably just make their own, so I don't know if that's really all that feasible. But of course, it's totally possible. I'm not going to use that as conclusive evidence. Now, I spent a bit of time playing Mario Odyssey to see if I could get the camera framing to match this particular footage. So I went into Photoshop, I distorted the footage to bring it back into flat perspective. I compared it to a screenshot just to see if the UI aligned itself with this particular shot, and it does seem to line up, so no issues with the fonts, no issues with the interface. And then I tried to get some screenshots of Mario at this particular distance, as well as this distance from the bottom of the frame. So the scale of Mario and the distance from the bottom of the frame. I was not able to get Mario that close to the bottom of the frame without him being much larger. The camera system just didn't allow for that. Now, obviously, I could maybe not have been as comprehensive as I need to be, but as far as my, half an hour of testing goes, I couldn't get this camera angle to work. So, do with that information what you will, but I think the most important evidence that I found was in the animation. Now, in Mario Odyssey, when you're in a warm level, when you stand idle, Mario starts to fan his face with his hand. And, of course, he does that here. Isle Delfino is a very warm place, but the animation doesn't quite match. In Mario Odyssey, Mario's stance is pretty, ready. He's got his knees bent, and in this particular idle animation, his knees are always bent. Now, I brought this footage into After Effects so I could do some image stabilization on it, just so I could better compare the real game with this footage. And you can see, for a couple of frames when Mario's starting this animation, you can see his leg go from a bent position to a very straight, almost bending backwards position. This does not happen in the game. Mario's leg stays completely bent. It almost doesn't change at all, but Mario does shift his weight a little bit. The weight shift in the footage, the leak footage, doesn't quite match. And again, the leg sort of straightens out. And the reason this might happen when trying to recreate this animation is because in animation, when you rig a character, you'll often use this technique called inverse kinematics, where you can position the hands and feet wherever you want, and the legs and arms will automatically position themselves in a way to facilitate that particular hand or foot position. So in this instance, what I imagine happened is with Mario shifting his weight, the hip bone probably got too far away from the foot, and that caused the leg to straighten out so that it could reach the foot. Now, it's a very subtle difference, but I think it's notable. Another difference is Mario's hand waving animation, the fanning animation. In Mario Odyssey, his forearm doesn't really move all that much. In this leak footage, his forearm's moving quite a bit more. Not a whole lot, it's a very subtle difference, but it is significant. Now, there's no reason to think that Nintendo would change this idle animation for a DLC. I think it's far more likely that somebody had to recreate this animation because we don't have a way to download the animation data as far as I'm aware, but we do have the ability to download the models, and we've already seen the models floating around. And a small detail that I didn't want to cover too much because it's not super important, but Mario's shadow in Mario Odyssey is always rendered from a light source that's straight down above Mario's head. So his shadow should always be identical as long as he's on a flat surface. And if you pay close attention to the shadow, not quite the same. So, because this animation doesn't really match, I have to say this is probably fake. There are other things that you could probably point out about this, like the animation on some of the characters in the background. It is off-screen footage, so it's kind of hard to tell. But between the buildings probably being ripped out of Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games, the camera angle being seemingly impossible to accomplish, and the animation of Mario not matching the actual game, I can almost conclusively say that this is fake. Now, just a few other things that, are very typical of fake leaks. One, why is this footage only 5 seconds? If this was a real leak, then wouldn't this person want to show off as much as possible to verify that this is real? If it's only 5 seconds, it's probably because the person who's making it doesn't want to do as much work. That's just the nature of making a fake leak. You have to do a lot of work, so the more measures you can take to cut back on how much work you have to do, it's not going to take a year to make a fake leak, which is totally not worth it. 2, why is this video footage off screen? Are they trying to hide something? Are they trying to hide the flaws? 3, why is this footage in a dark room? Now, I know when you focus your camera on a screen, the room tends to get darker, but I mean, are Nintendo's offices just really poorly lit? I don't really understand what's happening. Why is it always so dark around the screen? Maybe the screen's just really bright. I don't know. And I think it's worth pointing out that there's 2 amiibo in this particular shot. There's a Daisy and a Waluigi. And I kind of feel like whoever made this is kind of just trying to troll or send some kind of message. I don't really know. If you look at the video on YouTube, the description is also really cheeky. So, still really well made. It does have music. That's kind of impressive, and people haven't been able to source the music. So, kudos to that person, whoever made the music, for making something feel more convincing, but once again, I think it's fake. As always, use this evidence and form your own conclusion if you want, but I think it's pretty clear. Now, if I'm wrong, you know what? I'm going to look like an idiot, but I'm willing to stake my reputation on this one. So, I am going to try to edit this video together as quickly as possible because it's almost 4 in the morning. So, as usual, if you hear about a leak, let me know on Twitter, and I might make a video about it. I might just talk about it on Twitter. Depends on how big the leak is. This one was pretty impressive, I gotta say. But, as usual, all of the little details, they always matter. I am Artsy Omni, and until next time, guys, always be skeptical. Do not believe everything that you see. Look closely, do your research, or you know what, you can just live your life however you want. I don't really care. Thanks for watching the video, guys. I'll see you next time.